You know, my friends, I kind of regret giving Nova Covert Ops a score earlier this year. And the main reason I regret it is because it wasn't complete. It's an incomplete story, and I gave it a score like I would any other review. And now that I have the check-in format, I'm going to let the video stand as it is, but I'm not going to score each pack individually. I'm going to wait until the final pack, and then I will give a final score, and that will be the score that reflects overall Starcraft 2 Nova Covert Ops. So welcome, my friends, to Drak Reviews once again, and today we're going to be taking on the second mission pack for Nova Covert Ops. Now, the one thing I don't regret about the last video was that, again, it's Starcraft 2. And it's being made by Blizzard, so you know that the engine is being utilized properly. So it's not really worthwhile to judge the video, or judge the visuals, to judge the gameplay, or the audio, because it's gonna be good. It's a good amount of polish. This equation hasn't changed. The replay value in the presentation obviously will come into play in the last video as to whether or not I think that people will replay Nova Covert Ops to be able to go get the achievements and things like that. Really, the only thing that we can judge is the story. And if people remember from Mission Pack 1, I wasn't a big fan of the story. The first three missions was, okay, Nova has amnesia. We don't really know why she has amnesia. And instead, it ends with us basically probing her memory and finding out, where her last mission was. And that led into the second pack. And people might remember, if you've watched my previous video, that was my problem, is that they spent three missions basically telling us vague, I want to say nothing, because everything was incredibly cryptic, everything was incredibly vague. We didn't know necessarily anything about what the Dominion was dealing with, or really what the Defenders of Man were trying to do, aside from they're evil. And in this one, unfortunately, that kind of happens too. We get a full-on explanation of Nova's memories. So I'm trying to remember the circumstances. So the first mission that you go to in Mission Pack 2 is the last mission she was on before her memory blacked out, which was where she was working for the Defenders of Man, who had given her the impression that they were working with the Dominion. They wanted to protect people protect humanity from alien threats, as well as from domestic threats. And in turn, you go through the ruins of, I think it was Tarsanis, and you figure out that they start placing some devices throughout the city they were in Antigua, or in Tarsanis, and eventually find out that no, they're basically planting the pieces of a not a psi inhibitor. I think they call it a psi inhibitor, but it really is just calling out to the Zerg. No, a psi emitter. That's what they call it. So they're putting down the pieces of a psi emitter, and they're calling down the Zerg upon Tarsanis. So obviously this is a very Arcturus Mansk kind of plot. This is pretty much the anchor that we needed to show that the Defenders of Man are not on the up and up. Again, kind of asserting my argument that it shouldn't have been a 3-mission pack each time. We should have gotten that 4th mission so that we knew the Defenders of Man solidly were evil, that they had a Mansk kind of intent, and I wouldn't have had such an issue with it. Now, people have already made the argument, well, you already know that they're not on the up and up, they messed with Nova. I don't know if that's a valid argument, because the Dominion isn't exactly on the up and up. Even Raynor, who is the good guy throughout all this, he admits he's done some horrible things. And in some cases, you've helped him do those horrible things. And they even hint that there was stuff before he teamed with Mansk, where he wasn't necessarily the best guy. I mean, he was a Marine. All Marines are convicts in this universe, so you know that he had to have been doing something to warrant him being in that Marine suit. So at that point, we have that conflict, and again, I wanted that 4th mission. in the first pack. That would have been fine for me. I would have been like, that's a great setup. That makes me want to go play the next pack. And instead I got 3 and I just went, I guess I'll play the second one. So we do that mission. Then we move on to, or rather, on our next mission where we're going to help people out in competition with the Defenders of Man. We then the planet is attacked by the Tal'Darim. Now, we already know the Tal'Darim Protoss aren't necessarily not necessarily on the up and up. They're the more warrior race of the factions. So we knew that we were not walking into a good situation, especially when, if they see a problem with humans, they have no problem nuking them. So you spend that mission roughly fighting off or rescuing civilians to make yourself look better than the Defenders of Man, but also fighting off the Tal'Darim to make sure that they don't kill off both Defenders of Man as well as civilians. So it's it's a 50-50 situation. I actually did like the mission because it makes you kind of sit there and think about your own duality. Like, do you take on, the Tal'Darim are a major threat, but you also know the Defenders of Man are. Do you attack the Defenders of Man as well as the Tal'Darim to keep the civilians safe? No, you need to evacuate them. So it's one of those missions that really does give you a feeling of like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if you fight off the Tal'Darim, the Defenders of Man are still there. That leads into a cutscene where we get to meet with Alarak, and anytime Alarak comes on screen, I have no problem with it, because John Delancey, you are awesome. And he actually recommends that they use Terrazine to figure out what is actually going on, and actually I think I got the missions crossed, but you use the Terrazine to figure out what on earth they were doing, or to basically clear out Nova's memory, or bring them to the surface so that she can go through it. And I actually think the one that I gave for the first mission was actually the last mission, where you do find out that they are actually putting psi emitters on planets, and they're trying to exterminate the parts of humanity that don't necessarily agree with them. We also do find out that the leader of the Defenders of Man is actually working within Prince Valerian's cabinet, and there's also some other reveals that happened at BlizzCon 2016 that we also know about the background of this general, but I'm not going to spoil those. I'm going to wait till Mission Pack 3 when it's actually explained in the story. Overall, this is a good middle chapter, I guess. Again, it falls into that same problem. I really wish I would have had the first 4 missions. Instead of doing 3 packs, we should have just done 2. Give me the first 4 missions to really have that build up, and then give me the payoff with the last 4 or 5. Heck, there's a couple of missions. In the first couple of missions that I've seen, everything seems vital, but there are elements of them that we could have taken out and wouldn't have necessarily hurt the story. So you could have cut things down to 4 missions. We could have gotten 2 packs, and I would have been a lot more okay with it. But the story, the way it's structured in these packs, is really becoming an issue as far as I'm concerned. And I kind of hinted at this in an earlier video that I was still having the same issues. It's building up okay, but it's not building up any quicker than it's not building up quicker than last time. And it needs to be building up a little bit quicker, especially since this is DLC. And so you have to justify an additional price tag to be able to go and play these games. Along with the fact that some brand new StarCraft fans don't necessarily know who Nova is. I know who Nova is. A majority of the StarCraft fan base knows who Nova is because we were all excited for the StarCraft Ghost game. That didn't come out. And Blizzard has made up for that because they put Nova in Heroes of the Storm. They put Nova in StarCraft 2 and let her kind of be fleshed out. I do like the fact that this is based around Nova because this is a character that we all wanted to know about. I just don't think it's doing a whole lot of justice to the character. And I know that's a harsh thing to say, but that's my honest assessment of it. I'm not liking Nova any more or less than I did before. I'm not appreciating her more as a character. She's just where she was when I started up in StarCraft 2. And that's disappointing to me. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this review. It's heating up well. but it could be heating up a lot hotter, and I could be a lot more invested. But we'll see if Mission Pack 3 gives us a proper payoff, because we already know we're as of this recording, BlizzCon 2016 has already happened, so we already know that there isn't going to be an additional mission pack or anything like that. So hopefully this will tide us over. That's the biggest question with Mission Pack 3. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope things turn out well for this game, for this Mission Pack series. I really do. And I will see you guys next time for the next review.